Hola, bom dia. Munson here from expatsportugal.com with the Good Morning Portugal show. And it's part 2 this morning of a great show that we started last Thursday. And our guest was far too interesting to squeeze him all into 1 hour. So he's coming back this morning. It is, of course, James Holley talking about his journey from California to Portugal. Currently in Ericeira. Here he is, part 2, the Banana Slug Man, a.k.a. Banana Slug Man, the new Marvel superhero. And he may tell us more about that this morning as well. How are you today? Let's have a look, see who's here. We've got Matty, we've got Eusebio, the prof, who often brings us a bit of this day in Portuguese history action. Wonder what he's got for us today. Oh, here we go. Today in Portuguese history, 1497. Going back a bit then, some of you might remember that. Portuguese navigator Vasco da Gama reaches the Cape of Good Hope. And I think that's a really good name for that place, isn't it? You have to have a lot of hope to navigate that appropriately, which he did. His first words upon reaching the Cape of Good Hope are, "I can see Francis G's house from here." Is that true? Francis, can you confirm that, please, from Cape Town this morning? Hello, everybody. How's it going? Whitney as well. I am so excited. I'm going to be there on Sunday. That's quite amazing, Whitney, too. Fantastic. Tell us more about yourself, won't you? Thunder's here as well. Deagle in Belfast was a quick weather report before we go to the rest of the weather in Portugal, as we do between 8:30 and 9. It is news and weather together, and a little bit of an expat update. Saying hello to everybody as well, of course. Bon dia, Carl, from a damp, misty Belfast. Reports of snow this weekend from Deagle's neck of the woods, and big snowfall expected next weekend. 25th of November, early weather warnings are already out there. My goodness, okay. Interesting, isn't it? Boris's storm clouds over Europe. It's all there, isn't it, in the politics and in the weather at the moment. Hold it down, everybody. We're going to be fine. Yes, bon dia, Gumpus. Look, from our guest himself this morning. Bon dia, Gumpus. So honored to be back today. Feliz quinta a todos e alegria a todos também. He's very good with the Portuguese. We're doing 15 minutes a day at least. Look, até agora hoje estudei 10 minutos, 10 minutes, and 15 minutes already for James. Great effort. Ian Turner, our guest tomorrow, Coach Turner, as he is known to some of us. Looking forward to joining you tomorrow live to talking about growing old disgracefully. He is the growing old disgracefully, aka Grey Watch, not Baywatch, but Grey Watch. We might remake that on an Algarvian beach sometime in the future. Walking, women, and wine. Now that is that's what you evolve to from sex, drugs, and rock and roll when you're on the Growing Old Disgracefully program. They're unbelievable. That lot. I work among them. I train among them. It's like being back in Fleetwood Mac, honestly. And we'll find out more about that tomorrow from Coach Turner when he joins us to talk about it. Rugby Collins here as well. Rebel Mama's here. Fantastic. Looking forward to seeing you soon, Rebel Mama. Victoria's here. Look. Hola, bon dia, kids. How's everybody doing today? Do let her know. And Francis G, can you confirm those rumors about you and Vasco da Gama that were set? Those hairs were set coursing earlier on in the show this morning. Nubianette is here as well. Hola from Porto of the US. It's Friday evening. Forgive me. What is the Porto of the US? We know, don't we? That yesterday we were having a bit of a giggle, aren't we? That you don't often see this sign where Venice says, "Welcome to Venice." It's the Aveiro of Italy. I think I've called it the Chicago of Portugal as well, Aveiro, because of the wind, and there may not be other connections. But let's make more of those connections. We will talk more to James about how Portugal is the California of Europe. But let's make some of those stateside, and maybe if a few Brits want to make some comparisons as well. Porto is probably like Manchester. That's what I'm more familiar with. So those comparisons are odious, I think, as Oscar Wilde said. But still, they're a lot of fun. Okay, there's even a bar here called Vasco's. Okay, so there's something in this room then. And Jim's here as well. Bon dia, Gumpus from Wiesbaden. We may get a peek at the sun today. Looks like snow in the forecast towards the end of the week. That's in Germany, of course. Now, I'm not happy about that. Marty's is here as well with a bon dia, Gumpus. And Ton's here. We were worried about Ton and Andrea, weren't we? So great to have you here as well, Ton, with your bon dia, everybody. Everyone getting into the Portuguese. And man of the moment yesterday, along with amazing Austin brothers. Owen's back again this morning. Bon dia, alegria, todos. How are you this morning after a day of eating beans yesterday? We have a scientific experiment. So Porto, look at this, the Bay Area. and San Francisco area is Porto. That might be a little bit controversial. I would have that. I would say that's. I mean, you know better than me, Nubian. Who am I to? I'm not calling you my grandmother, but I will not be sucking eggs in front of you like that. But that's an interesting comparison. Who else? We'll ask James obviously about that. But who else shares that view? And what other comparisons can we make with the United States and Portugal? Friday Eve, of course, is the same as Thursday. It is Friday Eve here. All right, so let's take a look at that weather and some news for you. Let's see, first of all, what's going on with the weather. And what I thought I'd do as well for you is put those districts into perspective so you know what we're talking about. Obviously, you've got a pretty good grasp and idea of where Lisbon and Porto are. Let me just scroll back up so we can do the principal points of Portugal for you this morning. But we're going to go look at Évora and Leiria. Where, you ask? You may have heard of them, but you don't know where they are. I have a little map, I have a handy map for you to decode that mystery for you. So Lisbon, this is the one we do bilingually. 19 degrees the high today, sunny day as was promised earlier on in the week, right? So the weatherman done pretty good on this. 11 the low. It was 3 when I first came into the studio this morning. The probe hanging out the window said 3. It's risen in an hour to 9.5 degrees centigrade already. And in Lisbon, we're looking at 11 at the moment, rising to 19. And then it's going to give way tomorrow to a cloudy and possibly rainy weekend. Some rain tomorrow forecast. So take your brolly to Lisbon if you're going to Lisbon. And it's a 66 Fahrenheit high with a 52 low. Clear sky at the moment in Lisbon. In the aforementioned Porto, 9 degrees the low today, 17 the high. Sunny day today and tomorrow. So it's just the capital that looks like it might get rain tomorrow. And similarly in Coimbra, 19 the high. A nice high of 19 degrees centigrade in November. That's way into November as well, of course. Where did that all go? And 11 degrees currently with an 8 degree low in Coimbra. Faro, we had a wonderful 2-minute take, didn't we? 2-minute look at taster of Tavira yesterday, thanks to Dougie. Thanks for those, Dougie. Hope to see more of those. I think you might have toddled off into Spain. And one of our news articles this morning is about the Andalusia connection that's being made between Algarve and Andalusia this morning. So that could be fun, couldn't it, if you're making your way to Portugal? You have all of the rest of continental Europe to explore. Andalusia may well be a worthy first stop if plans are being discussed at the moment come into fruition. From fruition to Faro, 14 degrees, clear sky at the moment, but it will be rainy later on today by the look of it. 19 degrees the high, 14 the low in the Algarve in the south today. So let's go to those other districts. We had a look at Aveiro, didn't we, earlier this week? Beja, Braga, Castelo Branco yesterday. So Évora and Leiria. Let me bring onto the screen then a map so that you can see exactly what's being spoken of here in case you don't know where Évora or Leiria are. Here's a map for you. Look at Leiria, center of the map there, obviously over there on the western coast. There's only, well, no, there is a southern coast. I often say, don't I? There's no eastern coast, obviously. But there is a southern coast at Faro. It's got a bit of west and south action. But Leiria, all western front and no knickers. Leiria there, as you can see in the center of your screen. And Évora, you may not know so well, but that's going down into Alentejo to the right. I always, I'm surprised when I remember that Évora, I think of it being much further north than Lisbon, but look, pretty much on the same latitude as the capital. Évora to the east, Lisbon to the west there. Évora, a large district as they go here in Portugal, and a wonderful part of the Alentejo region. This is of Évora, the district, Alentejo, the region. So let's talk about the weather there this morning. And let's start with Évora. 6 degrees currently, clear sky. Couple of nice days in the offing here. Look, 20 degrees tomorrow. Starting off, though, isn't it amazing? Starting off at 6 today, right now, apparently, rising to 17, starting at 9 tomorrow in the centigrade, double it, and at 30 you Fahrenheit folk, and at a high of 20 tomorrow. So that's pretty good, isn't it? And Leiria, where the doc resides, Andy Thompson, our regular correspondent on Wednesdays of the second. No, is he? Where is he? First and third? Yeah, he's either first and third or second and fourth, but he's here twice a month. Any road up. 9 degrees currently, clear sky in Leiria, and another fine-looking day forecast for tomorrow. As I just give you a little peek, we will go to Santarém and Viseu and let you know where they are tomorrow. But nice days. 20-degree days tomorrow in Santarém, a 19-degree day in Leiria tomorrow, 13. Starting point, 19. the high tomorrow. So a couple of sunny days there, Santarém and Viseu, where we will visit tomorrow. So there you go. There's your weather. Very happy to hear of your weather reports wherever you are, not only in Portugal, wherever you are in the world. Hold on a minute. Sarah taking issue with this. Porto is even... If Porto is even vaguely comparable to Manchester, then I'm not coming. Not happy about... Well, we'll talk about that further tonight. Blimey. Sarah, it's not... Exactly. I mean, you would obviously agree with Oscar Wilde. Comparisons are odious. A particularly odious comparison there. A bon dia from Pamela Smith. I'm moving on. Now, Pam would know. Porto, Manchester. What do you reckon, Pam? And look at them, Victoria, this morning. This is news, folks. Thanks, kids. I'm officially a Portuguese residency permit holder. It was too easy. Wow. And look, she's been dancing since receiving that news, I think, yesterday there. Or is that a toga? Have you gone all Roman this morning in your emojis there? But congratulations, Victoria. I'm sure many people will be congratulated. They are. Ton, congratulations for getting your residence permit. Peter Bleach also. Morning, Pete. Glad you are officially home. Morning, Andy. How is everyone today? Let him know with a tudo bem, tudo. Okay, let's see who else is here this morning and how you'll respond. Oh, somebody saying to the Munson Massive, morning to the Munson Massive. Cheers, Andy. Peniche, the hailing island of Portugal. Now, I don't know enough about Hailing Island to know about that comparison, but we went there last night. Now, let me just get this out of the way because... yes, I don't know if you knew I was in Peniche yesterday, Ian, and I want you to tell me more about that comparison. But let me show you some pictures of Peniche from yesterday. Well, it started yesterday with some of this. No mother-in-law jokes here, please. Look at that. I was in Lourinhã yesterday, celebrating a birthday for one of the young uns, and we went to Lourinhã, where we went 3 years ago. And it was great 3 years ago. And I tell you what, it's even better now. The Lourinhã Dinosaur Park, Dino Park, de Lourinhã, just below Peniche, and only less than an hour away from the capital. This is a must-see place. And if you're thinking to yourself, it's for kids, well, it is kind of, but it's a great day out. There are lots of adults there without kids wandering about and enjoying the dinosaurs. 180 life-size dinosaurs to look at. Great places to hang out and have a picnic. We had a picnic and we ate in the restaurant. We had a fantastic time. The kids were smashing open geodes, and they were doing Indiana Jones sort of dinosaur recovery, fossil recovery out of these lovely briquettes that had been made for the purpose, and painting dinosaurs. So a fantastic day was had by all, and I thoroughly commend it to the house and to you. Go to Lourinhã, absolutely fantastic place. Oh, a bit of my green screen is showing there. All right, and so then onwards after, I think we were there for a good 5 hours or something. There's plenty to do. And it's a lovely day out and a lovely location. But then Peniche, on the way home, I said to Mrs. M, should we go check out Peniche? We should, really. And I went there when I first came to Portugal, I think 14 years ago, around that. And I didn't kind of hit it off with Peniche. It looked nice, don't get me wrong, and yesterday there was a slightly edgy atmosphere. There were a few cop cars around doing some official business. And it was getting dark. And then it got more and more sort of mysterious and sort of Buffy the Vampire-ish. We went to this particular... look at me horizon. That's really bad composition, Munson. But this part of... I think it's the north beach, the north coast part of Peniche is stunning and extraordinary. And I managed to get this shot with a slightly better horizon on it. That's looking out of the islands. You can see those islands from Foz do Aurélio in my part of the Silver Coast. But really, that's where you catch the boat out, I believe, to Bolinga. And it was magical. Now, but those rocks that you see in the foreground were terrifying. I said to everybody, hold on a minute, I just need to take a couple of photographs. And I jumped out of the car and I went striding across this kind of really, talking of dinosaurs, it was a prehistoric landscape. And then suddenly holes opened up in it where you looked like you could drop to certain death. It was terrifying. And then I peered over the edge of these cliffs and the waves were crashing against the coastline. And it was really quite terrifying in the dusk light. But you see, still producing a beautiful sunset picture there in Peniche. And apparently the hailing island of Portugal. Tell us more. I think it's a bit tongue-in-cheek. There's a picture across the tracks there for you this morning, out with Peggy and Jimmy, the dogs, this morning. I thought I'd take that picture for you of while we're doing a bit of weather and talking about the temperature. Look, beautiful sunshine blessing us this morning as we were out having a little bit of a walk, me and the dogs, across the railway line. I do like railway lines. Very romantic, I find them. Okay, so back to your comments, back to the news. What's being said here about the comparisons between the United States and there you go. Thank you for Lorinya. Thank you, Maxine. We've had different pronunciation coaches throughout the time we've been doing the show. Maxine is currently in that chair with Lorinya. Lorinya, have I got that right now? Then there is the spelling. If you want to research it, Elra very thoughtfully has put that in the comments for us. Susan's here as well. Do we call you Suze now? And now that we know you well, Susan, and the pressure is off, and I'm ready for adventure. Well, you're doing a pretty good job of it already, I thought. Don't get me wrong. The Moors, it's information as part of the news and weather offering from 8:30 to 9 here. The Moors called the Algarve Garb al-Andalus, which just means west of Andalusia. And then it got shortened to Algarve or the West. That's good to know, isn't it? The weather in the next 7 days will be 14 to 18, I think, over there in California, with an on and off chance of rain. Coat jacket weather. That's a nice way of referring to it, isn't it? I call it, I go by a layer system. The kids know what I mean when I say 3 layers today. Definitely have layers since it's cold without the sun. Does this sound familiar? So does. Warm, sunny, and windy in Cape Town. Cape of Good Hope, also known as Cape of Storms because of the treacherous waters around the peninsula. That's what I was alluding to there, Francis, where many ships sailed their final sail. Terrifying. Porto apparently has something of an air of decaying splendor. I remember from Manchester in my childhood. 70s, 80s, Affleck's Palace, but not so much the shiny modern Manchester I get lost in whenever I go back. Okay, well, that's possibly my reference point as well. Gemini's here as well. Good morning, everyone. And Andy said, I filmed at Lorinya, before I left the settings on fast forward record. Oh, that's what you did. Well, you can get more in that way, can't you? Balingish Islands that I was showing the picture of there, in case anyone needs the name. Just quick look at those one more time, if you'll permit me that. Look at those. That's the right legend for the right photo there. The Balingish Islands. Thank you very much for that, Elra. Always very helpful. Emphasis on the accent, Lorinya. We'll talk more about that when you arrive, James. Marty saying congrats to Victoria. So, it's such good news. Thank you so much. That's the big news of the morning. Peniche is spectacular, kind of like Sagres Coast. It overwhelmed me. I was a bit scared of it, actually, I have to say. Hank's here as well. Happy to see all our wonderful friends in Portugal. 5 weeks until we're back in the country. Fantastic, Hank. That'll soon fly by. Hang out with us, and hopefully the time will fly having fun here with the Gumpers. Bon dia a todos e tu, Carlito. This is catching on, this Carlito business, isn't it? And I'm enjoying our little man cave discussion that we're having on Messenger there. Did I sound a bit grumpy? I've got some lead in my pencil or wind in my sail with how I'm expressing myself at the moment. So forgive me, Gary, or don't forgive me. It's up to you. I don't care anymore. I do a little bit, but I'm enjoying that exchange that we're having there. Let's see then. Okay, thank you for that, Prof. Prof was telling us about the Moorish origins of the Algarve. And where's that gone? Because that was a really fantastic comment there. You go. That's on the screen for you again now. Algarve, which then, of course, has become Algarve in modern times. And the reference being made there to Andalusia, where there's going to be a rail connection, we hope. And I'll bring you that article right now. Andalusia Algarve rail dream this morning from the Portugal News. Pop it on the screen, Carl. There it is. And it's, from the Portugal News. Thank you very much, guys, at the Portugal News. One of the two principal English language newspapers here in Portugal. Portuguese PM Antonio Costa has said, not for long possibly, let's find out in January, has said it is a dream, in inverted commas, quote, the PM Costa, a dream to be able to unite the regions of the Algarve in Portugal with Andalusia in Spain through a new connection railway. And one day also in inverted commas, bunny ears, he hopes to get there. Is that being damned with faint praise? One day, I hope to get there. We hope that one day we will have a railway connection that will allow us to unite the Atlantic and Mediterranean corridors, linking the Algarve to Andalusia. It would be a dream for all of us, and one day we will get there, he said. Come on. The project is strategic for Andalusia and the Algarve, with the need to start its economic feasibility study to take advantage of European funds. The Andalusian Regional Minister for Development, Infrastructure and Spatial Planning, Marifran Carazo, told Lusa agency. According to the regional official, both the Andalusian government and the Portuguese government have already shown interest. I mean, this is sounding really kind of half-hearted to me. Have already shown it. Come on, guys, can't you do better than that? Like, we're really excited about this, is what I think people would like to hear. In the continuation of the high-speed railway between Madrid, Seville to Faro, passing through Huelva. But so far, the Spanish government has not commented. Oh my God, did they ask him at the wrong time of day? Was it lunchtime? The regional minister stated that it was necessary first to study the economic feasibility of the... I can't wait to get to the comments on this. I hope there are some. The regional minister stated that it was necessary first to study the economic feasibility of the investment to be carried out and then work quickly to convince Europe of its importance. And when we talk about convincing Europe in this context, I think that's probably just two officials, isn't it, at the EU who sign off the checks for this and transfer the money. It's not like everybody in Europe has a say in this, is it? Because, I mean, that would be impossible. We saw how difficult that is when you just ask a few people. So I'm not knocking it, but it's funny, isn't it, how countries or continents or organizations get referred to as if they have a mind of their own and they speak. It's always people at the bottom of this, isn't it? You know, America said... Anyway, I'll move on. But did you not find that weird as well? You know, the United Kingdom has said it's a landmass. It's not a person. It was one person in the government who said it, and then it's kind of, totally extrapolated into as though the country said it. I'll move on. When questioned about rail connections between the two countries, Costa referred to the future Southern International Corridor, recalling that Portugal is developing the connection between Lisbon and the border with Spain, either for passengers or for goods. Now, that's good news. Those tracks are there all the time, aren't they? And they should be used more. And I was sad to see last night, I was talking about how romantic I think railways are. And I was down by the tracks last night, walking the dogs as ever. And a train came on. I could hear it in the distance and I could see it going through. And at night, you can see the lighting in the train and the silhouettes inside the train. And there was no one in there, I don't think. And this is a shame. They won't last if people don't use them. So we've got to find a way of helping people to use the trains. And I think use the tracks for goods. Isn't that the sensible thing to be doing here? Anyway, this will be a very important link between the port of Sines and the border of Caya Elvas, which puts Extremadura in the middle of a strategic position with access to the Mediterranean ports of Spain, but also to the Atlantic ports of Portugal, and in particular to the port of Sines, she said. So maybe there's more in it for Spain than there is for Portugal. I don't know. But John Martin Standish Hepton, who sounds like a truly posh British gentleman, says, I attended a conference. I hit the this is why I find the comments amusing, because this is cue cynicism, possibly. I attended a conference in 2009 about expanding Portimao and making it into a real cruise port of call. Since then, nothing. It's so easy to talk about plans. Believe it when you see a railway line being laid circa 21, 22. Oh, come on, John, don't be like that. Let's between half-hearted governments and a cynical populace, we don't stand a chance. Come on, we can do better than that. What's been said in the comments about this, if anything? Oh, am I finally visiting Andalusia? You will if that railway line gets built. Yeah, and Rebel Mama picking up on this as well. One day we will get there. That doesn't sound too promising, does it? It doesn't. It really doesn't. Damned by faint praise, Garvo. What? It's the moustache. It makes you all rebellious and risky. Do you think so? Do you think I sit by the keyboard, stroking my tash, thinking, how can I wind people up now? Calm it, Carl. Okay, yeah, fair enough. I'll take it from my boys there, asking me to calm down a bit. Susan, either fine. Some good friends call me Suze, so I became an Expats Portugal member with it. So many posts already today. Absolutely. I mean, I'm not complaining, but forgive me if I miss you from time to time, and do feel free to reiterate yourself. There is a railroad that crosses Europe but stops in Spain. But this is why it's such a shame it does not arrive until Portugal and the project has been approved. Okay. Not sure quite what you mean there, Laura P, but I'm all for, as I think you are probably, for the European rail network being expanded and, getting those tickets that allow you to travel over a week or 2 weeks anywhere you darn well please for a very nice price. Peter Bleach, Carl, can you say Algernon Montgomery Lacey? as you appear to be turning into his uncle. Now, there's an erudite reference. I don't know who that is, or Merv Hughes is another lookalike you by the sound of it. Algernon Montgomery Lacey. Have I said that in the right way there? You're going to have to give me some a voice coaching possibly there, Pete. I'm talking about a railroad that starts, if I'm right, in Hungary and stops in Sevilla. Oh, I see. And we want that to continue into Portugal. Yes, I'm with you all the way there. I definitely use that train service. They'd like someone else to pay for its construction, so maybe they don't want to be too presumptuous. Nubianet, very perceptive. Yeah, it's going to be EU money, isn't it, funding that? No HS3 either. What a waste of time and money that is, says Garvo. More pocket lining, I think. Oh, really? Surely not. Well, wouldn't trains be better in terms of climate change than planes? Of course. And if the EU gets serious about climate change, then shouldn't they favour trains? They should. Let's all write a letter to them. I'd be on that train as well, says Victoria. Woo woo, choo choo. Very good. Do like a comment with sound effects. Got to be done. Okay, next news article then. No new state of emergency foreseen. Again, from the Portugal news. Well, I'll have a quick scan, I think, of the Portugal resident. I don't want to leave Natasha out here, so let's have a quick look at that. It's just minutes away, folks. We'll do these very quickly. Just minutes away from James Holley talking about his journey from California to Ericeira, Portugal. So I'll scan these headlines and then we'll talk about the state of emergency and Operation Save Christmas here. Look at this. Portugal resident, Operation Save Christmas. The PM addresses arrival of pandemic's fifth wave is one of the headlines there, and a cow with a Santa hat on, a cow that looks like it's been to the office party already. I say a Santa hat on, but the Santa hat nonchalantly hung from one of its ears, as many of us have been in that condition, I'm sure, after the office party. But a new surge in COVID-19 cases in Europe is seeing restrictions being imposed yet again in many countries. In Portugal, a key meeting involving the government and specialists is due to take place today, okay? No, tomorrow, beg your pardon, tomorrow, Infomed tomorrow. I'm thinking it's Friday already for some reason. I think that was Nubianet throwing me with the Friday Eve there. And the government proposal is official now, 705, the minimum wage. I thought it was 750. What's going on? Has it been subject to inflation before it's even become legislation? And Portugal uses vaccination trump card to woo German tourists. I do want to read that, but I don't think I've got time. That sounds interesting, doesn't it? Trump card probably means something very different in the United States, doesn't it? And teleworking here, it says, this was an article from a few days ago, but it looks like this, these PR puffs to see how people feel about things and to ease it into the public consciousness. I think this could well happen. Teleworking may become mandatory again if pandemic worsens. It is another of the headlines there in the Portugal resident. And just finally then, before we go to the theme tune of the 9 o'clock session, talking to James, I want to just very quickly look at this. No new state of emergency foreseen. That's good news, isn't it? Here in Portugal. So let's just check that out very quickly because it's a good news story, the sort that James likes, the sort that he pulled me up on. Come on, no gloom and doom here. Let's look at good stuff. And I'm sure he'll give me his own appraisal of these in just a moment. Those seats that the president and the prime minister are on seem to have some air conditioning underneath them. Have they been eating Owen's baked bean recipe as well? No new state of emergency foreseen then here in the Portugal news. Prime Minister Costa, second time mentioned here on the Good Morning Portugal show today, said today that he does not foresee the need for a new state of emergency, but assured that despite the dissolution of Parliament, the government will not hesitate to adopt more restrictive measures to contain the COVID-19 pandemic. So they're all over it. They're on it. They've probably got the old Vice Admirable ready. He goes on to say, I honestly do not anticipate that we'll have to adopt measures that imply a state of emergency, stressing that if necessary, the Parliament, even dissolved, maintains measures to monitor the government's performance that allow for new measures to be taken in light of current legislation. So just a reassuring, we're all over it. We're on it. We're thinking more about the election in January, but if we need to, we will step in and not foreseeing a new state of emergency. Isn't that good? Whilst many countries are kind of preparing their people for the worst, looks like Portugal are just like, hold on, hang on in there. We can do it if we need to, but let's hope that we don't. And let's have a great Christmas. Lots of Christmas decorations already up all over Portugal. Let's play that intro theme for the 9 till 10 hour here. This is paving the way, isn't it, for 24-hour broadcasting. That was the news and weather from 8:30 to 9 o'clock with Carl Munson, or the other fella that Merv Hughes, or the other one that Pete Bleach mentioned. We now go to Carl Munson again at 9 o'clock to talk to guest James Holley after the intro, everybody. Stand by. We'll be right back in just a moment. very interesting this morning. That's the sort of review we like. Thank you very much, Gary. Look forward to seeing you tonight. Actually, tonight on our webinar, we'll be talking about the Expats Portugal plan. And I heard a really nice pearl of wisdom this morning. When you're in the jar, you can't read the label. I think James will like that. When you're in the jar, you can't read the label. James Rohn possibly saying that. I was listening to him this morning. Now, the reason I say that is because we've innovated what we think is a fabulous product service for you, the Expats Portugal plan. But we're in the jar, and we need your help to understand it. If you understand it as well as we hope you do. So from 7:30 this evening on the webinar, still places available, I think, because on Zoom we can have 20,000. So there might be 1 or 2 places left there on the Zoom bridge. Talking about the Expats Portugal plan, there will be a little bit of a town hall atmosphere where Jerry will update you on a little bit of the history of Expats Portugal, where we want to go in the next 12 months or so, and talking, and then over to me talking about our flagship. Flagship is tomorrow. Flagship is tonight at 7:30, when I will tell you about the Expats Portugal plan. Things that I don't know, you don't know, and you'll be telling me about the things I don't know about it as well, so that we can make it an absolutely tip-top product and service for you. It's really for people who are ready to move to Portugal, and it's a step-by-step handheld guide support system for helping people do that. So we'll be talking about that tonight at 7:30. Let's bring him on. He was too interesting last week, so we had to do part 2. James Holley is here, everybody. How are you this morning, James?
Hi, everyone.
Great to have you back, sir.
Good to be back.
Lovely to see you there in Ericeira. How's your weather? What's your news and weather from Ericeira this morning?
Well, early on, it was sunny and clear and incredibly windy. And now I'm looking out the window, and the air has stopped moving. So it's sunny and beautiful and still.
I like that description. The air has stopped moving. And I saw you smiling when I said, when you're in the jar, you can't read the label. Did you like that?
I did, yeah. Yeah, it got me thinking all kinds of things that I have considered along the way in my own personal journey. One being that we're all reflections for each other. So being inside the jar was another take on that.
Well, this was the tone of our conversation. A lot of sort of personal development stuff came in, didn't it? You are a therapist, psychotherapist, of course. So there was a certain amount of introspection and an encouragement of that sort of talk here on the Good Morning Portugal last Thursday, which I think did divert us and take us off on tangents, which I've got no problem with. And I'm sure other gumpers here have no problem with that. So it might be a part 3. Who knows? Let's see how we can do this morning, or we'll have you on in the therapist chair on a regular basis to talk about.
Yes, every once in a while I have to remind myself, I'm not on vacation, I'm not leaving, right? There's just that feeling like, oh, I got to get it all in. I only got 2 weeks, and no, I got as long as I want. So thanks for the reminder.
Okay.
I'm happy to come back as much as folks want to have me.
Oh, that's super. I'm so glad to hear that. And this is an open invitation to everybody. I mean, Victoria would be great to be in the chair that you're in at some time soon. Andy, you'll be in it next week with a UK perspective, moving from UK to Portugal. So we're looking forward to you being in this same moving to Portugal chair next week. Andy Portuglish there. It was a bit of an exercise in personal growth, us working together, I think it's fair to say, James. Me with my kind of gung-ho, let's just put a picture up and talk about it. and you like, that's my presentation. That's my carefully thought out presentation that Munson is riding roughshod over my visuals. So I have disciplined myself. I think you'll be glad to. If I'm reporting back to you, with lying down and you're saying, how has your week been? My week has been one of my therapist where I have been a little bit more self-disciplined and learned some of the value of that.
And I'm learning to let go. So
we've been great coaches for each other then, perhaps.
Absolutely. Reflections of one another. Yes.
There we go. Okay. So is it okay to begin then with
Absolutely.
the
Where do you want
statue?
to start?
Well, this guy's the one, right? Well, you're going to lead us today. I'm going to sort of sit back a little bit as you lead us through these lovely images that you very carefully shared with me.
We'll start with the images then. That's great. So last week we were talking about that Santa Cruz was my number one first thought when I thought, where in the world would I be if I could just be wherever I wanted? And this is an image that I don't want to say it's representative of Santa Cruz, but it certainly is iconic. The surfer over the ocean. So that was just my lead in. Okay, there's Santa Cruz. So we can go ahead and move on to the next one, which is
There we go.
the beach. Yes, there we go.
Yeah.
So that's one side of where the lighthouse in Santa Cruz is, and I got to actually stand up on the point where the lighthouse is for a number of years, being a docent for the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary. So I just got to talk to people about the environment, the animals. There's lots of sea otters and sea lions, and we'd see dolphins and sharks every once in a while. And of course, I have an interest in birds. So this was my vantage point from there. This is what we were looking at through binoculars, if they chose to, on one side. And then we move to the next one.
Hold on a minute. Sorry, first distraction and tangent here. You were a what? What title did you give yourself there?
Docent. Which
what
is my understanding is that a docent is somebody that usually you see them in museums, and they do guided tours and things along that line. They show you the museum. In this case, the museum was the Monterey Bay National Marine Sanctuary, which is the third largest marine sanctuary in the world. Maybe the second. I don't remember. It's been a long time, but yeah.
That's great. That's a new bit of not just Portuguese vocabulary this morning, but a bit of English vocabulary for me there. Docent. I've never heard that. And it's what an education this is. Okay, superb. And then how are you enjoying? You said you're and what was the word? In UK we call them twitchers, bird watchers. Yes. What's the correct term? An avianist or something like that?
Well, people used to say bird watcher. That's how I learned it early on, and apparently it's gotten its own specific word now. So birder.
Okay.
Birder. I said that once in a class. What do you, in introducing ourselves, what do you like to do? And I said, I'm a birder, and several people said, burglar.
You should have gone with that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's very fun.
Yeah, I'd love to come round to your place sometime for dinner.
Well, what's your address?
All right, so back to the beach then. Bird life. I want to ask
you
about
that's the other side of the lighthouse. Its nickname is Dog Beach because that's a beach where people can take their dogs and let them off their leashes, and everybody understands that, and they all seem to be pretty good about picking up poop and not letting the dogs be aggressive. So that's just to give a kind of a sense of where I'm coming from when I say Ericeira is the Santa Cruz, California, Portugal for me. It gives you a couple of visuals to see.
Yeah, that's right. And there we go. There they are. And of course, we started with these comparisons, didn't we, this morning? Porto being the Manchester. That didn't go down very well. There you're making that comparison very directly there, Santa Cruz, Ericeira, which is great. Have you managed to make any other comparisons of that kind whilst you've been here?
No, I haven't really. I've been. I was going to say confined. I'm not confined at all. I feel totally free, but limited in terms of my travel because I don't have a car. I didn't bring a car with me, and I'm hoping to be able to exist here without one. So I've been dependent on the bus system, which I'm still getting to learn. So and I'm about a half mile from the nearest bus stop. I'm not right on the beach, but I do try to get out at least a couple days a week to the village and explore and learn the bus system and see some beautiful ocean.
Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's not so far. So those connections and comparisons that will be made in the future, by the sound of it.
I believe so. Yeah. I mean, if they come organically, I'm not going to try and create one. But if I get a feeling, like how can you not see the bridge at Lisbon and not think San Francisco? I mean, it's just virtually the same bridge, or at least appears to be. So those kinds of associations are easy.
Yep, brilliant. Okay, and we're already getting some love for California. I mean, that's never a surprise to me. I love the place. I'm Californian, can confirm Santa Cruz is fantastic, says Hank there. And Highway 1 down to Santa Cruz, one of my favorite stretches of California. And you might have to help this Englishman here. What birds do you prefer, blondes or brunettes? And because that's That's the geezer. That's the geezer. Oh, birds, I'm meant to be birds. And that's
Yeah,
what
it's another British term. Yeah, I've been joking with Carl about adopting some British terminology. So,
yeah. So if you're in London and you go into pubs, I'm a right old birds are me. It's like, all
yeah,
right.
birds, proper.
And then
That's right,
dogging.
proper.
That's
proper.
right. That is. It's not rubbish. That is right proper. And a dogging. It's a dog beach, not dogging beach, which is entirely different, Pete, and not a subject we should perhaps go into right now. Docent. There you go. Even with the pronunciation, certain US and European universities and colleges. A member of the teaching staff immediately below professional rank. There you go. That puts them in their place, doesn't it?
That's right.
Yes.
I feel a bit offended.
A person who acts as a guide. Know your place. It's all very well you educating people, but you're not like us. A person who acts as a guide, typically.
That's it. Definition 2. That's the one.
That's the one we'll go with. We prefer that one. Thank you very much. Okay, so then onward. Then we're doing pretty well here. We're in the air.
Yeah. So I'm assuming we'll get to the sort of the process of getting here, but this is the visual process of getting here. I've already shared the dawn, the sunrise over the Atlantic coming in. I've shared the landing at Lisbon Airport, but this was kind of in between. This is the coast of Portugal as we're flying over, approaching Lisbon.
I love that. And you had a great video as well, didn't you? The colors in the was it the early morning you flew in? It wasn't a sunset, it was a sunrise, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a sunrise picture out the same window, the composite that I shared. I attempted to not duplicate things that we've already seen, just so that we can see new stuff.
I think it's a classic. Shout out when we need to go to video, because we can roll those videos. The team are standing by to press the button on that. Do we go to Ericeira now? Do we go to the streets?
So this was I kind of subtitled this my very first picture of Ericeira, not of Portugal. I guess I got the coast, but this is the kind of the main street into the village. I think it's even called Rua Ericeira.
All right.
But I had seen so many photos of this villa for so long that to actually be standing on the cobbled streets and looking down that street it just took my breath away. So I had to capture the moment.
It's beautiful. I love
I'm
that.
not a big fan of missing the moment because I'm taking pictures. I want to be in it and experience it. But this one, it caught me. I just stopped anyway. So I got to take a picture of this.
I'll tell you what, there's an online course, how to be in the moment without taking a picture. I mean, it sounds like some people need that course right now. It's epidemic, isn't it? For sure. That coming out of the moment to find a camera to take a picture.
Certainly a mainstream approach these days.
Yeah, absolutely. But we're learning something about Ericeira here. This is a characteristic blue and white stripe, the candy stripe. This is all about Ericeira, is it? This is the kind of corporate look of Ericeira.
Yeah, and as an American in California, I said, wow, how do they legislate that everybody makes their buildings blue and white? In the United States, you can't tell me what color to paint my building.
Yes, and there's more of them here. Look at this.
If we'll slow just a bit, this was my first exploration of Ericeira. As I said, I'm getting down there. I'm just going to walk through. I was walking, and I was keeping the ocean in mind, because my destination was to get to where the view of the ocean. So I kept moving west through the village, and I saw this, and another one of those moments, I said, this is sort of the epitome of the Ericeira look.
Yeah.
So I had to grab that picture.
Because what I'm saying will be put into context in a little while, but is that frontage real there? Or is
that
that's real?
No, this is all,
It's amazing, isn't it?
It's not that every building is this way, but it certainly is the flavor. Like when you see this sort of arrangement of squares, rectangles, and arches with blue and white and beautiful doors, and most of the signage is hand painted tiles that are sort of glued or stuck onto the building somehow. So there's artwork in it, just even in identifying the building or the street that you're on.
It's just naturally attractive, isn't it? Even the one-way sign at the end of the street blends in nicely, doesn't it?
Yes.
It could be an azalesia, but that's a normal street sign down the bottom there. But in the same
So,
blue, it's fantastic.
yeah. So if we're taking a virtual walk, I'm now heading down that street. And then I'm going to take a little right, then I'm going to see another left, and that'll be the next picture.
Is that this one?
Yes.
Okay.
So there's that ocean I was looking toward. And again, I'm looking down the street with the I don't want to say standard. To me, it's just, I don't even have the words for it. But I said, okay, there's the ocean. I'm going down this street now. So now we're ready, I think, for that first video.
Okay. Well, what I need to say is, Andy, the bar has been set high. When you're here next Thursday, you've seen what you're up against now.
It's not a competition.
It is. It actually is. So,
Okay.
Andy, let's see what. No, it's not. It's not actually. But I think he will rise to that. He will rise to that. So
Nice.
I've got. I think I'm going to go with video clip 1. That might be it. Let's see.
That would probably be it.
Portugal is so blessed, isn't it? I mean, I thought, sorry, just another slight tangent here, but I discovered, went back to Peniche after 14, 15 years and just thought, these amazing rocks here, this amazing sunset. And talking to you last week about the infatuation stage. 4 years later, I'm still having those discoveries. And through you, vicariously, I've never been to Ericeira, but I'm looking at that and thinking, this country is just so rich in its experiences. That's beautiful.
Yes.
That's breathtaking. That's breathtaking, that video, the sound, the whole, the visual, everything about that. What I should have said is we can't speak during the videos. I did try and unmute you there. We might have missed something because I think you were talking.
No problem. I was just saying that's what I arrived to when I got down the end of that street. That's what I saw.
Wow. You must be quite pleased with that, James, I would have thought.
Absolutely. So far, everything I have anticipated, I'm avoiding the word expected because that usually leads to disappointment for me. So what I was anticipating, my experience of Ericeira has not been at all diminished. It's everything and more that I was anticipating in terms of the feel. It's not just the physical, geographical environment. It's also the feel of the area. And there is a sort of youthful curiosity and it's part of the culture. Even the expats seem to be welcoming and I don't know, it's hard to describe. It feels very international. There are many, many people in and out, and it's quite a tourist place too. But I'll share a little story. Yesterday, I was looking for the bus stop, and the little local buses that just kind of go around the village, there's no signage. So you don't know where they stop. You don't know where to wait for the bus. And you kind of have to know the route, but they don't provide a map. They just provide a schedule. So then I look up the street names on the map and none of them show up on the map. So it's just quite an adventure trying to figure out where do I find a little bus to get me through the village. And I was walking up the street to where I had been directed by the tourists. They said, oh, there's a bus stop at the driving school across the street from the post office. I said,
obviously.
I'll go look there. And no sign, of course. I said, well, there's one of the training cars. Oh, there's the building. There's the office. So I think I'm in the right place. Keyword there, think. You never know. Like maybe a bus will come, maybe there won't. I don't know. And then I saw another man who kind of hung out and then sat down. So I approached him and I used my now well-practiced, excuse me, I don't speak or I speak very little Portuguese. Do you speak English? And he looked at me and said, no English. I said, oh, okay, no English. No, he said, no Portuguese. And I said, oh, I said, English? And he said, no English. I went, okay, no English, no Portuguese. All right. And he said, Italiano. And I went, oh, Italiano. Because I've been to Italy. I know almost as much Italian as I know Portuguese right now. And so I said, because I approached him with autocarro, which I understand. I need to get that. It's autocarro.
Autocarro. Yes.
Yeah, 2 bars. Anyway, and he kind of looked at me and he said, and I said, okay, Italian. I don't remember, but I tried autobus. And he said, sí, aquí, or whatever the Italian is. I said, oh, then I was looking for thank you in Italian. I went, okay, wait, obrigado. And I said, all right, what's the Spanish? Gracias. Oh, that's it. Gracias. And he said, prego. And I said, all right, we got it. We figured it out. So
and the bus came in the end or not? Did you get the bus?
I did get the bus. I got it in the wrong direction, or so we say the wrong direction. I was trying to go the other way, and it was coming down this way. And he said, come on, here's the bus. So I got on, and it was actually, I say that it was a mistake, but it wasn't, because what happened is the bus was at the beginning of the route and went all the way through the village, all the way to the end of the route, turned around. They had their smoke break while I sat in the bus by myself because everyone else had gotten off. And they pulled up at the last stop and everyone got off. And I just sat there. And I say they because the driver was in training. So the senior driver was sitting right next to me. And he just looks at me like,
what are you doing?
Like, and I looked and I said, oh, okay. I'm going all the way around. Fortunately, the younger driver spoke English. He said, to the, and I forget what they call it. And I said, yeah, see. And so he said, okay. Anyway, this is the adventure of being here. I mean, this motto of every day is a school day for me is just, that's pretty much it. That's my experience. And having been a former teacher and educator. Yeah, I'm very curious. I want to learn. So.
Excellent.
So the advantage is I got to know the bus route. Now I know at least where it goes. still don't know where it stops, but I do. I
admire your adventurous spirit, and there is a funny thing with buses and off ramps on the roads, on the highways. It's counterintuitive. Just because you think you're at the bus stop and the direction of travel of the traffic is the way you want to go, it doesn't mean that the bus is necessarily going where you want to go, as you discovered. And it's the same with off-ramps, I think, as well. You think, I want to go over there. And you think, okay, the off-ramp goes in that direction. And then you end up going the wrong way again. And it's counterintuitive for me anyway, with the buses often and the direction of the buses and with the off-ramps. So, but you can discover that for yourself anyway.
Yes,
and we get lovely comments coming in. So envious of James is one of them from Hank. Not long now, Hank. James, get down to the rocks by the Villa Gale and watch the waves jumping in the air. So there's a recommendation from Rugby.
Well, actually, that I've got a video of not quite jumping, but I noticed the waves are coming up pretty high off the rock. So that'll come up a little later. Got a video. I don't know if it's the exact same place, Colin, but I'll look for it.
Yeah. God damn, that's stunning from fellow California.
Goddamn right, Hank.
Beautiful, says Iris, who loves the coast herself, enjoying Foz, I believe, at the moment. Gary, a bit random, but interesting. Read an article this morning about the Vikings and how they were the first people to colonize the Azores. So the Portuguese in following in the footsteps, or whatever footwear Vikings wore. I wonder, probably some sort of pieces of leather all laced up around their feet or something like that.
They didn't wear sandals. They just walked on there barefoot.
You would think so, wouldn't you? You would think so. Or other people. They walked. What did they walk on? They walked on other people. Ericeira was voted the best quality of life in Portugal before IRA. Has it changed since you arrived then, Colin? That sounds like it's not anymore.
So you're the one who's responsible for that downgrade.
The property prices crashed. The quality of life, it went down the tables. We're only kidding because we know Colin can take it. But James is a psychotherapist. If you have found that difficult, that bit of banter there, Colin, have a beer. Have a beer with James and take it up.
We've
with
already
him.
had coffee, so that's grand.
Look at this. Elra, the Portuguese, is saying, "Oh, your reactions are hilarious. For us, this is just another Monday." It's true,
Yes.
isn't it? It's true. And we've been these people, haven't we, James? I'm on the 25 de Abril bridge, as you mentioned before, the one that looks like you're on the Golden Gate Bridge. I'm on the train in the morning, coming from the south of the water, with the commuters, and the train, beautiful double-decker train, suddenly comes out over the bridge. And you get to see the bridge. You get to see the Cristo Rey statue. You see the ferries in the water. You see the sun shining on Lisbon. And you want to say to everybody in the carriage, "Look at that! It's Lisbon, everybody!" And they're just looking at their phones. They're like,
yes, another crazy.
What is wrong with you guys here? We're going into Lisbon, everybody! Look up!
Yes.
Look up. And it's just it's exactly what Elra's talking about here.
Another crazy tourist.
Yes, that's right. That's right. But we're still in our infatuation, and long may it last. Scorpions in Egypt.
Absolutely.
Come back to that. So let's go back to your documentary.
My stroll. Yes.
Yes.
So I headed south from that vantage point, and I found again another experience of something I'd seen in so many photos, and I just kind of walked up on it and I went, "Oh, there it is!" Like the real one. I'm here. So I had to do what everyone else does, which is take a photo, and then I took a video. So we can do that.
Roll that VT. Now, with that, let me just get rid of that picture there. You're not sure what's real and what's not real there, are you? I saw an ATM, which would be a bit disappointing if you strolled up to that and it was a mural. And then there's someone's window. Someone's actual window is open there in that mural, isn't it? And here's a still of it. That's it to look at, isn't it?
Yes. The fun game with the puzzle here is see if you can identify the real doors and windows, because there are some in there. And one door got me. I said, "Oh, well, there's a door that's open, must be real." No, it was painted open on the wall. So
I'd love to have seen that. Did you knock on it and sort of go, "Gooey, anybody in?"
Yeah, hurt my knuckles. Yeah.
Turned out it was
local
pointing and laughing at the guy. And that's stunning. That video is really stunning. I had to watch that twice the first time you sent it over. It's quite extraordinary, and it's again another representation of Portugal's great respect of street art and public art, I think, which I suspect you've admired.
Well, I noticed a lamppost in front of that. I said, "Well, maybe that's my favorite lamppost for now."
Oh, good. I'm glad you've got a favorite lamppost as well. It's not just me. Excellent.
Yeah,
okay, so
just for now, there may be others. There's plenty of lampposts, but it's like, oh, it's right in front of that mural. That'll be my favorite now. I'll claim it.
There's mine, just so you know.
I did want to comment on the whole bus experience as I was thinking about it. This whole practice of letting go of expectations is relatively new in my life. And I realized how much suffering it was creating, because rarely were my expectations being met in almost everything. And I realized if I hang on to those, then the rest of the world has to accommodate me. And that's not going to happen. So it's me accommodating the rest of the world. That's what I need to do if I'm not going to suffer in the fact, oh, this is not turning out. So Portugal and the bus experience is a perfect example of how the universe is providing me lots of opportunities to practice, because you just go with the flow. Oh, the bus is not going the way I intended. Okay. Oh, well, look, it's going on the route I wanted. It turned out to be the exact route I walked the entire distance to find the bus. So it took me all the way back, retraced all my steps, and then brought me back the same direction I had come. And because I wasn't in a hurry, and I think that's the main thing, having the time, I see the respect for the elders locally. And if there's some old man with a cane who's blocking my way, I don't kind of force and squeeze my way through as sort of the more American way of dealing things. I just stand there and wait till there's some space, and then I calmly walk by. in a
great.
doorway, a grocery cart in the middle of the aisle, just stand and wait. Like, what's my hurry? I don't have to be pushy. I don't have to get that cart out of my way so I can move on. And that's feeling wonderful to me. And the practice is terrific. I'm letting go more and more and more.
Are you never tempted to just shout out, "Come on"?
In the beginning, the first day or two, it was like, I gotta get there. But then I remind myself, get where and when. I'm not on a schedule. Take my time.
Yep.
And I plan. It's like I plan to arrive somewhere near the vicinity of the bus stop an hour early. And that just enables me. If I find it, it's like, great, okay, now I got an hour to kind of hang out and explore, and I can get back here. But if it takes me an hour to find it, nothing lost. So,
and you're never more than what? Yeah, you're not more than 10 feet away from a cafe ever, are you? So if you are an hour early, you
or
just
a restaurant in the village. Yeah, restaurants,
just go through
and cafes everywhere.
Yeah. And I love that, James. The whole idea about expectation, managing expectation. It's a really important note for everybody coming to Portugal. And we've talked about it before on the show. And you and I, the Landmark Forum, I did a course called the Landmark Forum, and one of their great bits of technology, and I don't even know if I'm allowed to talk about it really. With this is in the sort of putting it in the public domain with all due respect, but they talk about there's only 3 kinds of upsets for human beings, and I often challenge people to tell me of another upset other than the one you're talking about, which is the unfulfilled expectation, is a real upset for humans. We know that one. The unexpressed communication, like wanting to shout out, "Come on," but not doing it, or not doing it, and then a thwarted intention. Those 3 are the only 3 upsets, apparently, and I've not found any others. But that one is certainly a great one to learn and talk about and train in. The unfulfilled expectation. Portugal will give you that, and it won't just. It's not just a boot camp. It will reward you, won't it? In
Absolutely.
developing that. Yeah.
Well, and the key for what I'm learning, I believe it's a cultural thing, and I'm so new. I sometimes stop and go, you're making stereotypes. You've been here like 5 minutes. But in a very positive way, there is a much calmer attitude amongst the people that I have personally experienced. Maybe the business person who's trying to get to Lisbon in a commute has a totally different energy around it. But so far, my experience here locally, with the people that I'm staying with the people I have met, is it's very casual, relaxed, take your time, what's the hurry, enjoy life, be in the moment. And that's a part of what I was looking for that absolutely suits me here. That is very much like Santa Cruz. That's part of the vibe that I've been talking about that is so similar.
Okay, there are references to that in the comments, and also Pam was saying that Ericeira looks a lot like Porto Covo, which I think is in the Alentejo. And Laura asking, have you done the Rota Vincentina? Well, these are all things that should be written down in a little book where these things get written down.
Is that a dance?
It does sound a bit like it, doesn't it? I mean, either way.
Yeah, I don't even know what that is.
Yeah, we're going to find out, I suspect. James, the Atlantic Ocean is very different in character to the Pacific, is it not? What would you say about that?
I was expecting so, but at least on the coast at Ericeira, I was struck with how similar they actually were. I mean, I was expecting it would be somehow calmer on the coast, and then there's Nazaré, and it's like, no, that's not calm on the coast at all. But it's also very similar to, and I always lose the name when I try to come up with it, but there's a big wave area just north of Santa Cruz. It's also an international site for big wave riding. So I'm familiar with that too. But I was struck by how similar. I don't see the kelp beds that I'm familiar with in Santa Cruz, at least floating near the surface. But apparently there is a season where the kelp just washes up on shore. And from what I've read, people don't like it because it smells and brings flies and blah, blah, blah. But the people of Portugal who were coming back at the expats for hating kelp on the beach said this is a source of iodine in the sand and one of the things that makes our location healthy. So it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, of course. There's no mistakes, are there, in nature like that? It's us that makes the mistakes, I would say. I think Gary's asking about the difference between the Atlantic and Pacific in the United States in different characters there.
Yeah, well, that's how I understood it. That's what I'm addressing. I expected to arrive at my first experience of the ocean, not just the coastline from above.
Yeah.
I expected, okay, I was actually approaching it with this. So how is this different from the Pacific coast, from being in Santa Cruz? And I stood there and I said, it's not really. It's very similar. The energy is familiar. The ocean seems familiar. There are more buildings right up against the water on the Atlantic coast, or at least in Portugal that I've seen, that is less common in California and the Pacific. There are a lot of laws that have said from farther back, so you cannot develop within a certain distance of the coast because the coast belongs to the public, right? So we're keeping the beaches wild, so to speak. There are some locations that got in before that, but Portugal, obviously, in settling, has been here for so many more years, thousands versus hundreds, that development right up to the coast makes sense. Like, if I'm a fisherman, I want to be on the ocean. If I'm going to live here, I want to live right there next to the water. So there's a lot more buildings if you're behind you, if you're right up there looking at the water. If you turn around, you go, oh, buildings. Like that mural was a sidewalk away from the edge of the cliff to the ocean.
Wonderful.
So
okay, well, thanks for clearing that up. Yeah, that's interesting. And I guess the comparison we've got is we've got coast facing in the same direction, haven't we? Even if they're not sharing the same sea there, which is it's all fascinating
my experience
stuff.
Of the water itself is very similar. I somehow expected that would be different, but it's like, okay, it's an ocean. And I mean, beautiful. I don't want to diminish it. I love the ocean. That's why I'm here. But I was actually surprised at how similar the oceans are.
Yes, great, excellent stuff. Okay, and so that comparison holding up nicely. Nice to hear you guys talking Italian too. Well, it's a pleasure, Jabber. Another of the comparisons between Southern California and Portugal is that in both cases, the sea current comes down the coast from the north, making the water cold despite the outside air temperature. Okay, well, that's great, Jim. Thank you for that as well. Hank wants to meet up. And his theory about the Vikings is they walked on the entrails of their enemies for shoes. That would add up, wouldn't it? Certainly the more recent, the portrayals we've seen on Netflix, I think would say so.
I've also, because I know a little bit about so many things, and because a large part of my heritage is Scottish, I found out that the designation of the thistle as the national flower for Scotland was based on its role in turning the Vikings away, because the lore says the Vikings were attempting to raid Scotland, but because they were stepping on the thistles, which implies being barefoot, the thistle protected the Scots. It's like, ow, 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 we're leaving now. And for a Viking to say, ow, 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 I'm leaving, that's some pretty serious pain, I'm guessing. I think big burly Scotsmen with bagpipes and big axes probably was not the most appealing enemy to try to approach barefoot in the thistles anyway. But
yes, and with no underpants under the kilt as well. I mean, that's a terrifying image, isn't it? So that whole combo there was enough to keep the Vikings out of Scotland, and still
so the lore goes. Yes.
Garvo,
never mind. We'll take over the southern part of this island.
Get back on the boat. Get back on the boat. We're going south. Garvo, Vikings were a sort of lifestyle choice. They did DNA testing on remains, and many locals adopted Viking culture. Well, I suppose it's got a lot to commend it, hasn't it? Do what you want, drink beer out of helmets and stuff like that. So yeah, I can understand why that would have happened, but not in Scotland. Although look at this, they found remains in Scotland with just local Scots. I suppose looting and pillaging was a healthy lifestyle choice compared to deep fried haggis. There you go. The theory is being supported there this morning. This is such an erudite and scientific show, and we are in danger of going into part 3, James. Let's pull it back, sir. Where are we going?
Danger for me. I love it.
We're going to the coast again here.
Yeah. So now, all right. So continuing the journey, I'm now continuing to head south, and what I saw that was not captured in the picture was just a twinkling ocean. That sunlight was just blinking all over the place. It was just fantastic. So I said, this doesn't do it justice. I'll need to take a video, and that's the next video.
All right, let's do that. Here we go.
Which also
Video.
didn't do it justice, but it helped.
You're right about that. You think it might do it justice. I think you're just saying that as the video came on. It doesn't capture it. I mean, that's very beautiful, and I'm sure people will say so. But that twinkling on the water that you speak about, we get it on the Silver Coast too. It's a celestial, transcendental experience, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely. It was stunning. So I think you're seeing a little bit of a tendency, which is I don't take pictures everywhere, but when I'm stopped, when my breath is caught, I just go, oh. So all right, I need to capture that. So, so it's very selective. It's not like I have 800 more pictures. Those are the ones that I took.
Yeah. And love for your sentiment of just letting go here. Excellent. I mean, and I think this will be widely held, an appreciation of that, and levels of practice as well. Better or for worse. But I suppose what would you say as a psychotherapist, James, if people are thinking, I would love to let go and I'm struggling to do so? We need to forgive ourselves and be kind to ourselves, don't we, in that process?
Absolutely. I'm a huge advocate of being kind to ourselves. And someone suggested the other day about, I don't know, wasn't here, I guess, but, talking about your best friend, like what advice would you give your best friend? And I've done that fairly, I don't want to say frequently, but fairly often with clients who are really beating themselves up about stuff, being unforgiving and being unkind to themselves. And I would say, so what would you, if your best friend was telling you what you're telling me, what would you tell them?
Yeah, beautiful. Yeah.
And then they say it, and I said, so there you go.
Yes.
You're as worthy of that kind of response as they are, if not more so. So yeah, that's definitely one place that, be kind to yourself and others. I'm a huge advocate of kind. The Dalai Lama said, be kind whenever possible, and it's always possible.
Well said. Yes, we need to get him on here, don't we?
Yes, that'd be great.
Andy was saying it was the same for him, when he lived in Sydney. Look, it's the Opera House, everybody. And at the moment, presumably, you'd be told to get back indoors and where's your COVID passport?
Yes.
Different times there now. Beautiful shots and vids, James. The murals in Portugal are awesome, as we're seeing there. James agreed. So many things are out of our control. If you're going to fight against everything, you will just end up exhausted and nothing changes. Anyone here familiar with that, I wonder? Good morning. Oh, Mrs. M's coming with a cup of coffee and put her hand up immediately about that. So many things are out of control, love. If you're going to fight against everything, you'll just end up exhausted and nothing changes. That's Elra.
And a little addition from the psychotherapist. One of the things I try to teach in the process is we control nothing but ourselves, period. We don't control our children. We don't control our pets. We control nothing outside of ourselves. And the best we've got with anything outside of ourselves is influence.
Well said, sir. And that's $180 apparently for that, is it? Your invoice for that one?
No, actually, I'll do that pro bono. Thanks.
He's doing that pro bono. What a gentleman. Fantastic. Okay, so Iris enjoying that. I love your sentiment of just letting go, which sparked that bit of the conversation. Linda gave me an ear bending this morning. That's a British phrase, I think. You can imagine what that's all about. This morning, about us all growing facial hair, but not talking about it, which is a strange paradox in connection with male mental health. Yeah, well, I don't want to talk about it. Let's just talk about the moustache. Changes nothing, she says, except ourselves.
Yes.
It seems to me that our Portuguese brothers and sisters work to live, they don't live to work. I would agree. Mexican fisherman story coming up. It is a bit of a stereotype, but there's some value in the Mexican fisherman story, I think, nonetheless. I'm a bit shaken by that. Linda, Gary, we need to do something about that, don't we? Point taken. It's all very well, you're all just being lazy and growing beards, which is just a ruse, for not shaving. When are we going to do that? Let's do that. Let's have before November is up. We must do that. Let's maybe get a panel of men on this show. I'm sure, James, you'd come back for that. And we'll talk about male mental health.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. And I just wanted to add that I did not shave anything because I talk about it pretty much not all the time, but I'm not afraid to talk about it with people. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
And for me, mental health is a huge issue, regardless of gender, race, ethnicity, culture. We don't tend to process in healthy ways, or those of us who struggle with it the most don't tend to talk about it. So I'm not a big fan of isolating a particular group, but yes, men don't really tend not to talk about what's going on internally. So I talk about it all the time. I think I would love to have a conversation about this whole thing about manning up, because it bugs me every time you say it. I chafe. It's like, oh, stop it. But I'm happy to share why. I mean, I understand your sentiment around it, and the reasoning is fine. But there's stuff that is so much deeper about saying that.
And that's why we need to talk about it, isn't it?
Yes,
because when we don't, it does get reduced to the sound bites and the standard bugbears. And I thank you for that, because you have heard me say that, and I have a context for it, and we can only elaborate and get the juice out of that if we talk about it and have an extended conversation, rather than saying, you can't say that. And it's like, well, I will say that. And what's the point in that? It's like, well, why can't I say that? Let's talk about it. And so we'll do that. We will do that. We should have a special before November is out. And
I'm a huge fan of identifying the behavior rather than grouping it into a particular sex or characteristic. So rather than saying man up, and say, well, have some courage.
Yes.
Or man up. Well, get the job done. I know you don't want to, but do it anyway. Because we can say that to anybody, but to say man up is to imply, from my perspective and my experience, is to imply that there's something wrong about you as a man because you're not behaving in that way.
Yes.
And that's the part that chafes me, because that's the part that men are not talking about. That's the part that they hold inside. I don't feel that way, but I'm supposed to be that way, but I can't let anyone know. I can't take my armor off. So that's a nutshell why things like that.
I get it. Yeah. And why have that unnecessary complication?
Just identify the behavior. What is it you're trying to say really deeper down?
And what is the outcome we're looking for here? And that's the great problem of our times, isn't it? What's the outcome we're looking for? We're all friends, really, aren't we? Looking for a particular outcome. We get lost in the dialogue or the lack of it. So let's do something like that. Thank you, James. Really appreciate that. And thank you, Gary and Linda, for bringing that up. So we will do something on that. And you haven't shaved anything, which is also interesting. I'll do anything for love, but I won't do that. James, have you found your quality choice of decaf yet? More important questions here. Still can't find decaf espresso here in the coffeeiest of countries.
So yes, I have found decaf.
Well done.
My taste for coffee has been developed over, I mean, I love coffee, but the particular specifications I am looking for have been developed over years of what it is I'm trying to do. So each category, decaf, because I get jitters when I consume caffeine, organic because I don't want the chemicals. I want it to be as healthy as possible. Shade grown because that's better for the environment, and fair trade because more money off of it. So each one of those is to make an effort. Again, personal accountability and responsibility. The purchase I make makes a difference. So this is why I'm looking for this. And I understand, even in the United States and in California, I found one out of the thousands of potential choices. I found one that satisfied all those categories. And I loved it. Oh, I have this. And so now I'm in Portugal. The options are severely reduced, both in decaf, which is already limited in the United States, and then in all the other categories. So I have found a couple of decafs, but they don't satisfy any of the rest. Oh, and dark roast is just personal taste. I don't like the bitterness of a lighter roast, so I'm looking for a dark roast. So what I'm doing now is I'm using my decaf, which is a light roast or a medium roast, and topping it off with a little bit of dark roast. And the only dark roast, unfortunately for me, because I also want to buy local, was Starbucks. It's the only dark roast I've seen on the shelf. So I top it off with a little bit more. Yes. I own it. But you can see I've been making the effort. I've been looking, I've been asking for advice. I'm trying to find a solution.
After all that effort, you need coffee. You might need caffeine. You might need caffeine after all of that.
Yeah, that's the best I've got so far, and I'm not giving up hope, and I'm not holding any expectation. It's like I'm taking what puts itself in front of me, and I'll keep looking.
Coffee group on the forum. expatsportugal.com/community. Get a coffee chat going on there. It will be endless and it will be specialist. It really will. Victoria, well, congratulations to you, Victoria. Great news from you. Off for a walk now, guys. Enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for another amazing show. See you all and Coach Ian tomorrow. Yes, Coach Turner here tomorrow for some growing old disgracefully. And the manning up comment has triggered some comments. Kind of literally, probably. We'll come to those in just a moment. But we're on a tour. We're talking to James Holley here, who's come from California to be in Ericeira. Atlantic is wild and restless and very cold, says Gary Austin. Thanks for a great show, guys. Offer a coffee and breakfast to ponder male hairs with the missus. Yes, talk about it. I worked on a film. Cinematographer wanted to capture kick on the water, meaning the sun. The kick on the water. That's a nice way of describing it, isn't it? Or angels, or whatever you might call them, unicorns. You succeeded in that last video, so some thumbs up for the video there. So where were we, James? I think we were
near a walking tour.
Okay.
I'm going to turn around and start heading north now. If you want to cue, no, not quite yet. Cue up the last video.
Oh, I see. Okay, that's the video perspective, isn't it? We were talking about.
Yes, that's the video perspective.
Yeah,
and then I did the video of that, and then the next one following that video, I turned around and headed back.
So we'll roll that. Should we roll that VT now? So what was that there? That was good. Let's do that again because that was a bit too brief for my liking.
Okay, so just the. Right, I just wanted to capture the splash. I noticed that the ocean was coming up on the rocks and splashing up. So I waited several sets till I saw, okay, these are the waves that are making the biggest splash. And then I tried to catch one. It wasn't the biggest, but it was a good splash. So, yeah. And it also has me now going back north, back toward the village.
Okay. So enter the village.
Photo is where I arrived. That's the sort of central, I can't ever remember the name of the park, but that is the iconic center of the village location. And the next photo over to the right is what I'm calling my favorite for now, gelateria, because I'm a huge fan of gelato. This is apparently, made in the same style as Italian. And then the next photo is a closer up of the actual business.
All right.
It's called Venezia.
Yes, more Italian referencing there. So Venezia there. And the gelato or gelati, I guess, going on in there. Is it a hybrid then of Italian and Portuguese ice cream engineering, or strictly Portuguese?
From what I understand, they're making it true to the Italian style.
Ah, okay.
I'm not enough of a connoisseur of gelato in Portuguese to know the difference. I just know that it's
delicious.
It's delicious and it's denser. It doesn't have all that air pumped into it like ice cream does.
Okay. So it's not a superficial experience. There's some depth and body. What's your favorite flavor in there then?
Oh, I don't know. I have one. I'm experimenting with varieties, getting better and better at ordering it in Portuguese. So that's part of my practice. I give myself 5 minutes of Portuguese study for every 5 hours I spend out in the public. Because I'm like, how do I say, where does this bus go? How do I say I want a scoop of strawberry? How do I say these things? So that's all practice.
Uma de cada is the go-to phrase.
I have particularly enjoyed that. I tried a pastel de nata flavor once, and I had not experienced the pastel de nata yet. And so I asked my friends if that was close, and they said, yes, it was very close. I said, okay. I also like the coffee and the caramel flavors. So.
Yes. Yes,
They're all
super.
good.
But I noticed as well, you said currently my favorite, which allows room for more adventure, doesn't it? I noticed the languaging there. Very interesting.
Yes,
Okay.
my favorite for now, Angela, because there's 3 or 4 right within less than a 5-minute walk. So I got to try them all.
Okay, this might be a suggestion: wax on, wax off. You're not shaving, but there's an alternative should you want it. What's wrong with the expression "man up"? I like it. I think is what Max is saying. Well, I think you might have sent that earlier than we unpacked it there, Max. I think
And it's
both.
as you said, Carl, it's a long conversation, but I kind
Let's
of went
have it.
on.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm all for it. You know, being masculine, lifting weights, absolutely nothing wrong with being a man. There's a bit more to it than that, isn't there, Max? You've got to go and eat ice cream as well, obviously. Leave your politics at the door. I think he might be joshing a bit. I do like the cut of his jib. Oh, Max, he's always good for a conversation here. Leave your politics at the door. Well, there's an interesting one. Yes, sometimes, but we're not afraid to go there either. But it's one of those things, like you say, I think that you're alluding to, James. It can't be done. It can't be just done and dusted in a few minutes, can it? Or with a few sound
No, not
bites.
at all.
If we're going to have these conversations, we'll have them fully and freely and respectfully. But it takes time, doesn't it? Especially at the moment.
Yes.
Yeah. Man up prevents whining about first world problems. Well, that's possible. That's possible. But again, let's go deeper into that. Let's not be writing each other off, or I suppose it's a little bit of male rutting inside the comments, isn't it? Who can write the best comment about manning up or not? Stephen put it perfectly in the Man Cafe last Friday, read the topic of facial hair. In short, he said, growing moustaches is nice, but what are you doing to reach out to others and make a real difference? Going up to them in the
people
street.
why you're growing a mustache. Say, have you noticed I'm growing a mustache? Let me tell you why. As opposed to, oh, nice stash, thanks.
They run off like, go away, you funny man with a strange looking mustache. It's because we see it as shameful. Interesting. Okay, so we're already opening up here. We see it as shameful. We always have to have it together. I will be part of it if you'll have me. Well, Francis, as the inspiration for it this month, you're on that panel. So you, me, and James so far. I think Garvo's probably up for it. We had a conversation on the Man Cave about male mental health, I suspect, and how many men take their own lives in comparison to women. Save our bros, start talking, lads. We're on our way with this, I think. Fantastic.
Well, here's an interesting brief statistic for more conversation. Statistically, at least in the United States, more women attempt suicide, but more men succeed.
Oh, my goodness. Right.
In terms of percentages. So, I mean, suicide is definitely a serious issue on both sides. But apparently when men say, I'm going to do it, they do it at a much higher success rate, which is distressing. So then there's no second chance.
No. Wow. Okay. So clearly, we need time to have this discussion, don't we? The way Stephen put it was truly moving. What I mentioned barely covers how strong his statement was. Thank you, Raphael, for that. Thanks as well, more broadly. It's been lovely to have you as part of this community. Thank you for that. Technical guy, emotionally intelligent guy. Love that. Thank you very much. It was a statement that hit hard and really makes you think. Highly recommended to check out the replay of what Stephen said. Andy, can we have a segment? Let's queue up our discussion with that, possibly. Stephen, he's a fabulous bloke. Organic because you don't want the chemicals. I won't ask, but I'd be curious about your stance on experimental mRNA vaccines. This is what Max likes to do. He's got his big wooden spoon out this morning and he's stirring it up. And that's another one we might have, Max. All for it, but the timing has to be right. Maybe Andy could cover this topic a little when you appear on the show, especially as you had a recent real life experience with one of your pupils, sadly, there, of course, Andy. But yeah, we'll do that. We will go into that and we will do it justice, I hope. I suspect we will. Michelle Mocha is my favorite. Okay, thank you for that, Michelle. And that's the ice cream, of course, that we're talking about there. Gelato isn't allowed to have a high water content like ice cream and had a lot more cream in it. One of the reasons why it's creamier. That'll be it. Thank you for that, Raphael.
Would explain it. Finer crystals, too.
The man of the Butterbell. He brought the Butterbell to our attention, which we will go into probably next Consumer Tuesday to carry on with that. I feel your pain, James. Same for me. Finland, trying to choose flavors, deciphering the Finnish words. I think she's probably got a tougher job than any of us, I have to say. It's what the Man Cave is founded on, talking about the untalkable. It is absolutely right. I Garbo, I'll go anywhere, he says. What talking wise? Yeah, Carl will have his work cut out. What's that? When we talk next Thursday, I'm looking forward to it, Andy. I really am. His statement from last Friday stuck with me too. Jeff, thank you for that. We need let's have Stephen's segment if we might, Andy. I think we should play it on the show here. Thank you guys for doing that and having your man cave on a Friday. Let's conclude our journey with James.
And I'm noticing the time, so it might be a good send-off. I'll set up both pictures. The final two pictures. The next one is what really caught me. Once I had said, this is really Ericeira is really feeling like the Santa Cruz, California, Portugal. I stumbled on this particular photo, and it's a statue of a surfer overlooking the ocean. Just like Santa Cruz has a statue of a surfer with his back to the ocean, but either way. Yeah. So my joke has been they even have a statue of a surfer, sister cities. And then the final photo is just my send off. It's like, this is what I do every morning. And you've seen it before, but I thought it was a good finish. And it turns out the timing is perfect. We did it, Carl.
We did it. We blimmin' well did it, as you might say in Blighty as well. And I love that picture. I really do. You are a fabulous part of this community. And I'm glad to say, it's a win-win. It would appear it's been useful to you. And we have been blessed by your presence on these two occasions and your ongoing enthusiasm for what we do. So thank you for that, James. And yeah, we move on and we move forward to to having the discussion about male mental health. Never mind about just growing the tashes. We're going to be talking about the issues as well. So thanks for that prompt from Linda.
Yes. James, at some point, I would love to share my actual more administrative journey to getting here. I kept thinking, there's things that I experienced I would love to share, but there's so much. It's like, it's not my show, and I'm not going to. It's like, yeah.
Well, it might be. I mean, we'll pull you in for the webinar, for some webinar action, because I think those panels where it gets more technical are quite useful, and then they live on YouTube. So if I can take that or give you that as an invitation to come back with the technicals on a webinar, that'd be superb. Would love to do that.
I'd also love to be involved in whatever conversation comes up around mental health, particularly men's mental health. But
you're on the panel. You're on the panel, and ongoingly, I hear you offering yourself as a resource there. So I appreciate that.
Well, also as a member of the conversation, not just not as a professional, but as a man.
Yeah. Absolutely. James and Carl, thanks for doing part two. I overslept this morning, but can't wait to watch start to finish later today. I'll see what you mean there, James. Jeff, thank you very much, Jeff. Always great to see you and probably see you tonight, I hope. Good one tonight, Jeff. Do join us for that. Lovely way to start the day. Thanks, James and Carl. Thank you, Iris, for joining us. Appreciate it. Thanks for sharing, James from Nubianet. And take care, James. Appreciate your insight. That's a lovely place to leave it for today. James, thanks again. We'll go out with a theme tune we all have grown to know and love, right? This is part of the Gumper lifestyle. And you're actually, we didn't even mention banana slugs this morning. You're really instrumental in that. The banana slug thing.
Represent.
and this is where it began, in case you're wondering. We had this. We went to the. I was talking to Mrs. M yesterday. This is Dr. Bayard's factory where they make the lozenges. And I was thinking I must send them the strapline, suck on a doctor in the morning, which I think would really help them in their efforts to
They'll take it up as part of their marketing program.
So how about that, Dr. Bayards? That should ensure me a lifetime supply as well. And James compared and contrasted that big old lozenge being massaged by that strong-looking lady there to the banana slug, which is he has a fondness for and a connection to back in California.
Which looks tiny compared to the other one, but it's actually a very large slug.
Pathetic. Man up.
You slug, you.
That's right. This is what you should be aspiring
to.
There
you
go. That's a real slug for you. And so there's that bit, the banana slug, and of course you're integral to the Gumper conversation. But it seems to be sticking, doesn't it? We do seem to be the Gumper. Yeah. So there you go. Thanks, James. Thanks for all of that, and we look forward to seeing you soon, my friend. Have a great day. Have a great day, everybody. Ciao for now. Would you like to say goodbye in your finest Portuguese, which you're so diligently learning?
Sim. Now I was like, gone. Prazer, obrigadissimo.
Obrigadinho, obrigadissimo. Ciao, ciao. A prazer. And até logo. Ciao, ciao. Ciao for now.